Season 49 of Survivor kicks off tonight, featuring a brand new slate of castaways and, of course, the fight for $1,000,000 and the title of sole survivor. Joining me now is one of the contestants on this season, Jason. Jason, hello. How are you feeling?
Hi, I'm feeling unreal right now. I feel like the premiere, there's been so much anticipation from me personally about this show. Survivor is like one of the brightest, most vivid memories in my life, and it's crazy that I'm gonna see it on TV. That's never happened to me either. So there's gonna be a lot of firsts happening for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Well, I can feel your enthusiasm kind of through this interview, so I'm excited to get to know you more. And I can't even imagine being on the cast because for me, every Survivor premiere feels like Christmas morning. So let's get into this. So, Jason, what should the fans know about you as a person ahead of the season?
Yes. So my name is Jason, and I think that there are a couple of things that the fans should know.
Okay.
One is sort of my background. I am an ex-software engineer turned lawyer. So there are a lot of different backgrounds and different types of experiences that I bring a unique mix to the table. And I think also something that I am excited for viewers to sort of put themselves in the shoes of is I was actually the alternate for season 49. For those who don't know, an alternate is someone who is brought on location just in case something happens at the 11th hour. And at the 11th hour, 59th minute, about the last night before people were sent out into the game, that's when I got the news that I was even going to be on the show. So, like, I want you to sort of put yourself in that mindset, right? If you knew today that you were going to be on Survivor tomorrow, that's still like more time than I had. So I think that it's like going to be really crazy to sort of see it unfold because the experience was so insane in my head in the moments leading up. And I think that, we'll have to tune in to see what happens. But I think it's like a really great time capsule into that part of my life.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to explain it as well. And it's interesting because it's like, outside looking again, of course, it's easiest to judge from the couch, right? Watching at home. But it's like, I almost feel like being thrown into it would, in a crazy way, almost be the best way to go in because you just have to go for it. But I am curious with that, kind of what was your rush of emotions? What was how did your mindset switch immediately? You went out there thinking, okay, I'm just an alternate. We'll see if something happens. And then like you said, in the very last moment, it happens. So how do you switch into game mode and just be ready to take on this season?
Yeah, I think that it's truly being thrown into the deep end, right? And I think that that's sort of the mentality that it's out there. When I get the call and telling me that I'm not going to get on a plane back home, I'm going to take a boat onto an island. I think when I say it happened the night before, I did not sleep that night. I had to rewire my entire brain and I basically didn't sleep a wink. So whiplash, I think, is sort of the best way to think about it. And I think that it's like a spot where I wasn't on a couch, right? But I was sort of not thinking that I was going to be in the game that late in. So I think that sort of flip on a dime, that intensity, that sort of huge back and forth that's happening within my head, I think, like you said, is a like sort of a blessing in disguise that I'm preparing myself for an experience that's going to throw a lot of curveballs. Survivor is unpredictable. You can never really know what's going to happen. And I sort of got that experience like one night before. So I think that going into it, that energy was something that I wanted to capture and use to my advantage. Even though, having less time seems like it can be a little overwhelming. I think that overwhelming is the name of the game in Survivor. So I just kind of rolled with it.
I like that. Overwhelming is the name of the game. Okay, I want to back up in time a little bit to what we're currently talking about because I can tell how much you love this game. So why'd you choose to kind of initially apply for Survivor?
Yes, I've loved Survivor for so long, and I think what's interesting, and in contrast with other sort of reality TV shows of the same ilk, Survivor is a show where they throw people on an island, but they aren't wilderness people. My first season that I watched, Gabon, had someone that was really similar to me, sort of like a lanky Asian nerd, right? And to see someone like that fight for their lives in the jungle is just something you don't really see anywhere else on TV, and it got me hooked. It puts you as someone watching in the shoes in a way that I never could if I watched a Man versus Wild or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Survivor has this crazy thing about it where there are so many different people from so many different walks of life. Everybody has somebody that they can root for, that they can identify with, and they
Mm-hmm.
can kind of like be, huh, what if that was me? Like, how would I do? And I think that there's just something so captivating about that, that it really obviously like led me further and further to get deeper into the show, to apply, to become the alternate, and to be told minutes before the show started that I'm on. So I don't know, just that excitement was sort of the North Star that kept me going the entire way.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there because I think it's important to remember that like Survivor in essence really was one of the kind of first big, social reality experiments that they tested. And, they went from, houses is where a lot of these were filmed to an island, which is kind of crazy. So I'm curious to know as well from you, Jason, whether this was, before you flew out to Fiji or the week you were there kind of in isolation, was there any prep work that you did going into the season, whether it was watching old seasons, maybe strategic planning, figuring out what might work for you or not work for you throughout this season? What was kind of your game plan as far as all that went?
Yeah, so I think that my prep has to take place in the context of my life at that time. So
Mm,
I was in the last semester of law school, and I get the call that, hey, Jason, you may be on the next season of Survivor. So what does that mean for prep, right? How do I prioritize and juggle my ability to graduate with sort of being ready and on call and willing if I get the call, which did happen, right? So I think that the most important thing, especially coming back for my prep, was giving my fiance a 12-page Google Doc to break in case of emergency, in case I got on the show. I pre-wrote all of my essays. I told her exactly who to contact to make sure that I graduate because she had to sort of three kids in a trench coat, take my phone, take my two-factor authentication to make sure that I can get across the finish line back at home and I can live a stress-free game. In terms
mm,
of the island prep, if we're on video, maybe we're not. I spent a week sleeping out on the patio of my
okay.
apartment without a blanket. I am such a homebody, stay indoors, very tenderfoot kind of guy. So I think that my prep, if there was any to be done, had to be focused on how do I make myself really uncomfortable? How do I make it so that even if I am having a terrible day, I'm delirious, that I can still make decisions, right?
Hmm.
So that was sort of the angle that I wanted to focus on. I made sure that I spent a 3-day period without eating. I did puzzles in the middle of the night on very little sleep to make sure that my brain can function.
Hmm.
Things like that were what I prioritized going in, especially because, as an alternate, I just want to make sure that if I go out there, it's going to suck. And how do I make sure that I can make the best of my experience, like running on fumes?
Hmm. It's interesting, like, I guess the contrast in a sense of how you, like, almost lived a double life twice. Like, you were prepping for, getting through school, but also maybe being on Survivor. And then you were, like, went out as an alternate, but also had to be ready for if you went in the game. I think that's a really interesting kind of, I don't know, contrast there, like I said. So, kudos to you on that. Now, Jason, I can tell that you're a super fan and that you really love the show, or at least that's what I'm kind of getting through our interview here. So, what does Survivor as a show mean to you? Because there are so many people just like you who really adore this show.
Yeah, I think that I Survivor, it feels really corny, right? But
Hmm.
Survivor is such, it means so much to me because the show itself is so simple.
Hmm.
All you're doing is you're grabbing a bunch of different people from all walks of life, putting them on an island and asking them to work with each other and work against each other at the same time. I think that it tickles the part of your brain that really is strategically minded. Oh, how do the politics of it all work out? And it also kind of scratches like the underlying humanity of it all. I feel like Survivor has such an opportunity to deprive people, to starve them, to sleep deprive them, to get them at each other's throats. And yet, I think that, I don't know, it's just such, and again, I think that this is a little cheesy, but it's like such a good way to crystallize where we are as a society, where we are as a country. Like
Hmm.
Survivor has so many different moments over the years that I feel transcend TV. I think
Hmm.
that season 48, if you watched that, had so many moments where it's like, wow, Survivor, especially in a reality TV environment that we have right now, it feels so real and so raw and
Hmm.
so relatable in a way where other TV shows might be sort of fun popcorn drama. Survivor just feels so raw. And I think
Hmm.
that that realness is what draws me to identify with the people in the TV and to want to have that experience for myself. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would totally agree with you. I always say like Survivor is like escapism in its truest form as a viewer because you are transcended to this kind of island, right? Where you're watching people make something of themselves and, try and quote unquote survive for however many days. But also there's a lot of real life kind of humanistic moments, which is what makes the show what it is. So I would totally agree with everything you're saying. Now, in closing here, Jason, can you just briefly tell me what makes you suitable to be the winner of Survivor 49?
I think that my unique entry point into the season of 49 as the
Mm-hmm.
alternate, as somebody who has had to prep twice as hard for a chance at $1 million,
Mm,
puts me in such a heightened mindset to be
mm-hmm.
able to grab the game by the horns. I
Mm,
think
yeah.
that people who have prepared might over prepare. They might have expectations that are playing against the reality of what their senses are telling them on the island. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm an empty slate, I'm so open-minded and ready to go and ready to engage with 49 in a way that I think that no other castaway really can. I think that there's like a level of rawness and realness to my experience that is
Mm-hmm.
so congruent to what Survivor's all about that that's what is gonna push me across the finish line, so to
Mm-hmm.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I love that. I think that's perfect. Well, Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me just hours before the season 49
Yeah.
premiere. This is so crazy. Don't miss Jason on Survivor season 49. Best of luck. We can't wait to see how you do.
Thank you so much. See ya.